So now that my first novel is officially published, I believe it is time to show you how I plan my projects. So this will be an aesthetic video, kind of my writer's routine, about how I plan characters, settings, playlists, and overall just the outlines for my stories. So let's jump right into the video. Obviously, you need an idea before you can begin planning. Now this idea can be vague or detailed. Whatever it is, write it down. We don't want to forget this grand idea that could turn into something truly jaw-dropping, now do we? And your story can come from anything, and I mean that. The story you'll see me plan out today came from a journal prompt about a circus getting run out of town after town. Now, the idea I had branched off from the prompt, and before I knew it, I had a whole world planned out in my head with twists and magical beings. A fantasy circus story just sounded so fun to write to me, so what did I do? I wrote my idea down and began to pursue it. Now that you have your idea and all these thoughts of what could happen in your story, you need the motivation to plan it out. Sometimes, and I speak from experience when I say this, you can have this grand idea in your head about the world you want to build, the characters that will be there, the events that will happen, but you don't want to take the time to plan it out. What you want to do is get it written down and out into the world. While this does sound like the more appealing and simple plan, it is the one that will lead you to problems later on. Problems like plot holes or a mistaken character feature that you changed halfway through your story. This will lead your readers to believing you didn't put the work in or you had AI write for you.
No, God!
So what to do? Let's get into the writing mood. Whether it be a rainy day, a sunny one, or just a bad hair day, these few tricks should help. Keep in mind that though these worked for me, they won't fit everyone, so you may have to find your own. First, I grab my iced coffee, light a candle, and grab my notebook and pen. Then I set the mood. Whether it be loud, aggressive music, sad music, white noise, or even rain sounds, turn it on. Or maybe you work better under silence. Lock yourself in a quiet workspace and open your notebook to its first empty page. This emptiness leaves so much room for possibilities. You're sure to want to write something down. If you already know the title of your project, start with that. These first few pages are simply for your brain dump. Take any events you want to happen and any characters you will create later and fill your lines with those. It doesn't have to be pretty. You're just emptying your mind to make room for more possibilities. Now that you have iced coffee in hand and a brainstorm on paper, you should be getting about in that mood. Now it is time to get some much needed inspo.
It was at this moment he knew.
Time to search some pics that suit your project's aesthetics. You can create a board or just scroll through the pictures and get ideas from those. Either way, your brain should churn looking at these. You're gonna get some really bright ideas, I'm sure of it. For my draft, I'm going to search fantasy circus aesthetic, circus animal tamer, and old circus photography. And I'm just gonna kind of scroll these and find what fits for my brainstorm and maybe even see pictures that spark new ideas. That's our goal here. Usually, after my mood boards, I get some extra scene ideas. Just please remember to write them down, and then I move on. Your characters are so important to your story. They are the element that makes it happen. Character building should be one of your main focuses. First, I like to think of the events and plan my characters off of that. For my story, I have Colette, the golden retriever girl with the gift of talking to and controlling animals. Lori, her adoptive mother, oblivious and upbeat. I have plans for 2 love interests, but sharing them now may reveal a bit. Now I move on to character profiles. So I have seen others use some app to generate their characters so they can see them as they write. And while I do like the idea of having that visual, I prefer my old school route of writing out the profiles. And I do kind of see them when I make my character edits, but it's not perfect to what I wrote, so I just stick to writing mine. And you can pick either one, but I don't have a tutorial for making the images. When I make my character profiles, what I like to write is name, age, hair length and color, eye shape and color, and a bit about their personality. Now, if you have a book with magic, like mine's going to be, also write what their abilities are. It really is just that simple. For me anyway, this is my process. Other people have other processes, but you find what works best for you. This is really it. I just imagine what I want them to appear as, and I just write it all out. Here is a look at my rough character outlines, so you could maybe get an idea to create your own.
Chemistry was crazy from the get-go. Neither one of us knew why. We didn't build nothing overnight, cause a love like this takes some time.
Now, chapter by chapter, I break down my dump from earlier and add in ideas from what I got from my Pinterest finds. So when I'm outlining, I think of exactly what I want to happen in each chapter from prologue to epilogue. Those are not necessary to have in your story, but I like to add them in mine. So looking at these events, I can determine what characters I want to be in each scene when. And this will just help you shape the entire story. So breaking it down like this is definitely a process, but it is so worth it in the end. I would hate to go into a project without a single idea as to what I'll be writing. It'll sound flat. With an outline, you can plan twists, events, characters, all of it properly and when it should happen. And now we move on to the small things that still play a big part in building your story. First things first, world building and map creating. Right now I'm sketching out the idea for my map. And yes, I'm making this map for my new fantasy story. But who said you can only have maps in fantasy books? If you have a small town book or anything of the sort, like a city, you can still build a map. No one can tell you what you should do. For my maps, I like to sketch out my idea and then tea stain my paper, and then I'm going to go on Incarnate and put it into the computer. Now your focus should be world building. What you want to look out for and make sure you think about is currencies, cultures, languages, magic systems, education, government, and anything else you have in mind that should be included in your world. Depending on your story, you may need to do some researching before you start. For my first story, I had to research things like blood loss and how many stabs someone can realistically take in the stomach. Yeah. For my circus story, which is the one I am currently working on, I want the voice to sound regal and like it's dated back during the Renaissance period. So I'm going to research other stories with that writing style so I can get a good idea of how to write mine. For example, instead of saying, "I love you so much," I need to turn to the Victorian side of things and try, "You are the thought from which I cannot turn." My writing should sound as though it is more poetic and descriptive. I am challenging myself with this one, as my first story was in simple YA style. Descriptive, yet it uses contractions, which I should try to avoid in this story. And those are all the steps I take to plan my novels. After that, I move on to the first draft, which is really just a more simplified and organized version of the outline we created earlier. And from there, I fix it up to be the best it can possibly be. Writing takes time. Embrace it and let it flow. Rushed writing can sound less descriptive and more forced. I really hope this video helped you in a way. Maybe you better understand novel planning and building that world that many will read later on. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you guys luck in your projects, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What am I doing with my life? We don't want to forget this. I'm gonna crash out. Now that you have iced coffee. For my draft, I'm going to search. For my draft, I'm going to search fantasy circus aesthetic, circus animal tamer, and old circus photography. I would hate. Whoa. Depending on your story, you may need to do some researching before you. For my first story, I had to research things like blood loss. So I'm going to research other stories with that. I messed up. After that, I move on to my first draft, which is really just a more simplified and organized version of the outline we created, or earlier. What? And those are all the things I do to plan my novels. After that, I really just move on to my first draft. What? And those are all the steps I take to. Oh my god. I'm gonna crash out so hard. Breathe, Kay, breathe. And that is. I'm walking away. Never mind, let's get this finished. And those are all the steps I take to plan. Maybe you better understand planning and world building for everyone. I just butchered that. These are my last clips. These are my last ones. Planning and world building